Quick, someone hurt me so I can be significant. In my head. Hello everybody, welcome to In My Head. Two quick things. The first, I'm from the United States of America, so if you're from a different country or a different culture, the things that I say here, they may not apply the same for you. The second, I am not a licensed professional. Here on In My Head, I give my take on mental health issues, and today we're going to be discussing if Tony Robbins is victim blaming the Me2 movement. For a quick recap, a woman stood up in the middle of one of Tony Robbins' self-help seminars, and she said to him that she didn't think he was really understanding what the Me2 movement was all about. Then he pushed back on her, literally, and he explained that some people were trying to gain significance from being a victim. Generally, it appeared that he was speaking over her, and he was telling her what she was thinking, basically answering questions for her, and it seemed to make a lot of people uncomfortable. One of those people was TARANA, founder of the Me2 movement, who spoke out about this recently. She said the Me2 movement is not about victims, it's about survivors. So was Tony Robbins victim blaming? Well, let's talk about what victim blaming is. Breaking it down, we have victim, or somebody who was harmed, and we have blaming, or assigning responsibility to them. Tony Robbins had spoken about people having a pattern of victimization. He also told a story about a friend who wouldn't hire a woman because she was too attractive, and this made her a risk. Let's go deeper on this. Victim blaming is actually something that's been studied, and there's a theory on why people victim blame called the just world theory. The idea is that we want to believe that everything that happens in the world, it happens for a reason. In other words, the world is a just and fair place. It's a really tempting idea to believe in because we see signs of cause and effect all around us. Living here in the United States of America, we've had the American dream where certain people could believe if they worked hard enough, they could get ahead in life. Holding on to this belief of the American dream might also be another reason why we believe in this just world. But there are other reasons why it's tempting to believe in a just world. One of those is that it helps us to feel like we are in control of our own destiny at all times. Anytime something bad happens, we believe that there is something that we could have done to prevent it, and then we go and take action to do something differently next time. But this also means that if something bad happens to somebody else, then there's something that they could have done to prevent it. Taken to the extreme, this means that no one could ever be a victim. But what happens if somebody's walking down the street and a tree branch falls on them? What if a car swerves and hits someone? What if an unexpected earthquake demolishes someone's home? And what happens if someone's assaulted? People are not always in control of what happens to them, but we like to believe that people are in control because it helps us to feel safer. It's as if we think to ourselves, well, that could have never happened to me because if I were in that situation, I would have done something differently. But as TARANA pointed out, the Me2 movement is not about victims, it's about survivors. The people in the Me2 movement are legitimate victims, they have been harmed, and now they're doing what they can about it. They're taking control into their own hands and speaking up about it. One thing that reduces victim blaming is knowing the victim personally. We tend to be more conscious and aware of how our friends and our family are feeling when they've been a victim of something. It's easier for us to empathize with them. When it's somebody that we don't really know so closely and they're out there on the news, it's easier to blame them. Interestingly, in one study, they found that when people talk about the stress and the discomfort that they're feeling after watching somebody being victimized, they're less likely to blame that person for being a victim later on. So if you want to combat victim blaming, talk about how you feel. In another study, they found that depending on where reporting focused, that could influence whether victim blaming was going to happen. If the news focused more on the victim's story and the victim's experience, then people were more likely to blame the victim. If the news focused more on the perpetrator and the perpetrator's actions, then people were more likely to be sympathetic to the victim and go against the perpetrator. And this is what the Me2 movement is doing. It's encouraging victims to speak out against their perpetrators. It's encouraging people to talk about how they feel. It's helping to foster empathy. It's helping people to understand that sometimes bad things do happen to good people, and it's out of the control of the victim. But it is in the control of the perpetrator, and the perpetrator should be held accountable. People who have difficulty with empathy in general may find it hard to understand what's happened to victims. As more victims speak out about the harm that perpetrators have caused, it encourages people to feel more empathy. Saying that somebody who is a victim has a victim mentality can be a form of victim blaming. When we do this, we're not being empathetic to the fact that they are a victim and they have been harmed. If you believe that the world is just and the world is fair, then that may just be a way of protecting yourself from feeling the stress and the anxiety and the discomfort that you feel when you hear about a crime. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. Talk about it. If you'd like to learn about mental health, go to youtube.com/RyanLiberty, hit subscribe. I'll link down below to some of the resources I've been talking about when it comes to victim blaming, as well as to the Me2 movement. Having said all of this, what do you think? Was Tony Robbins victim blaming here? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you for joining me, everybody, here on In My Head. This makes me uncomfortable.